Today we are building a rear bumper slash generator mount slash bicycle carrier hitch mount for my camper. I don't plan on carrying it around all the time, but I like to have the option. It's all about options, right? So like if somebody's like, hey, we're meeting in a state park, by the way, there's no power. I want to be able to go do that. I already have the generator. I have an Expedition, so I don't like to put fuel in the back of my Expedition to where I have to smell it while we're driving. So I've been looking for a place to put that, and I believe that spot is probably here on the rear bumper. Obviously, I don't want to get too much weight back here, but I'm trying, so that comes into my design. I'm trying to design this as light as possible, but as useful as possible. So you all have seen, and I can put a picture here or whatever, of the like flip down racks that bolt on to each side or bolt onto the back bumper that flip down, and you can put stuff on it. Just be aware that those have a weight capacity, not including the platform, of 200 pounds. And I think there was some debate on whether the spare tire is or is not included in that 200 pounds. So it could even be less than 200 pounds. I'm not planning on putting 200 pounds out back here. This generator is maybe 50 pounds, and 5 gallons of fuel is probably what, 40 pounds-ish. So I don't plan on going ridiculous here, but we all know, and if you don't know, you probably should, the back bumper of these travel trailers is a thin wall piece of tube that's made for holding a sewer pipe. They're not really made to carry weight. So I've been working on a rack that will attach to the frame and kind of use the factory rear bumper a little bit, but will mostly be supported on its own, and it's supposed to work together. So I've been staring at this for a while. I've got some scraps just laid up here, and I got the generator up on my sawhorses. I made some drawings. So you can see, oops, there's a rear view there and a top view there. So my inspiration here is the U-Haul trucks that have the rear bumper that's like a bumper, but it has like a place you step, and then it cuts in for the receiver hitch and then cuts back out, because I want the receiver hitch as close to the body of the camper as possible. I don't want anything hanging out any further back than I have to. So I designed it so I can get it up as close to the camper as possible. I've got everything laid out here. I've got the design down, and I've got a plan, and now it's about time for me to start cutting some metal. So basically, it's gonna be 1.5 inch angle iron, 1/8 inch wall, and I'm basically gonna build a frame with a cutout in the middle that attaches to the receiver hitch in the middle. I'm gonna cover it with expanded steel, but I'm not gonna cover the whole I'm not gonna cover the top of the bumper too. In order to reduce every pound possible, I'm gonna only cover the gap where the basket is not over the bumper. So it'll only be about maybe 6 inches wide, and then the second half up closer to the camper is gonna be, the top of the bumper will be part of the basket. So the whole design, I tried to sketch everything out so it's as light as possible. So anyways, we're about ready to start cutting. Stay tuned.
All right, so here you can see I've got the 1.5 inch angle iron in my horizontal bandsaw. I'm cutting the 45-degree angles on it for the frame of the basket. I'm cutting this on a fancy horizontal bandsaw, but you could just as easily mark it and cut it with a grinder. And then I'm taking it over to the back bumper of the RV and setting it out. I like to partially assemble things and just stare at them for a while and see how they could be done better. It took a lot of measurements here in the center to get the angle going back to the receiver hitch right. So I made sure I measured it a whole bunch of times. And you'll see in there, I leveled the trailer real quick to make sure it was perfectly even with the floor. That way I didn't weld it out of shape. So here you can see me with the drill press. Here I drill a bunch of pilot holes all the way down about every 10 inches or so. It depended on which piece it was. On the shorter pieces, I put them closer together, but on the bigger pieces, I put them wider apart. So I believe the final size of these holes was 1/2 inch, and that was so I could fit bungee cords and stuff in them. So I got the front 3 pieces of metal cut and everything's 45'd at the corners, and then each edge piece I drilled, there are 1/2 inch holes, and I did a little bit different measurements. So the back is 6 inches spacing, the sides are 4-inch spacing, and then these 2 little gussets that are going to go here, they are 3-inch spacing. Then that's just because this is 9 inches long, that's 12 inches long, and I forget how long this is. But the spacing just worked out that way. So I drilled all those holes. That kind of sucked to do, but it's fine, it's done now. So I'm gonna weld up the back section and the receiver hitch onto this. That way I can put it back on the trailer and measure for the piece that will go from here to here, because I want to be accurate about this piece. So I'm going to weld these pieces first. That way I can measure that last piece. So, all right, here you can see us welding up the frame. I'm using a normal 220 volt MIG welder. It's a Hobart 180 that it's old. They don't even make it anymore. You would probably be fine with even a 110 flux core welder. If that's all you got, then that would work just fine. Just make sure you get it good and hot. Here I'm measuring and cutting the angled pieces back to the receiver hitch. And if you're eagle-eyed, you'd notice that one side is longer than the other side. And I didn't realize it until a little bit later in the project, but the frame rails on this are not even. On the left-hand side, the frame rail is kicked out like 6 inches. I assume to accommodate some bathroom plumbing or something. But yeah, the frame rails are not aligned with each other. So the left side is actually longer than the right side, but the receiver hitch is in the middle, if that makes sense. So here I was testing how I was going to strap down the generator and trying out some different methods like ratchet straps or bungee cords or whatever. And then once I got that done, I pulled everything off and ground off the paint from the bumper and the frame rails. I threw up some wood to protect from weld spatter, cleaned up the metal, and got the rack on there, and some anti-spatter spray, and then started going to town, welding little bits at a time, going around to different portions. That way I didn't heat up and warp anything. So I'm welding it to the bumper and the frame rail. So there's about an inch portion, inch by inch at each corner that's welded directly to the frame rail. And then I also welded it to the tube, all the way around, bottom side and top side. And then here you can see I wiped it down with rubbing alcohol real quick, and I'm painting it. Everything's painted. I got super excited and went ahead and put the bike rack in. So that all fits and works well and is as close to the body of the camper as I could get it that way, because I don't want anything hanging out any further back than it needs to be. And I hung the bungee cord off the end of it so I don't hit my face on it while I was walking past. And here's me rehooking the gas line back up underneath the frame. I drained it, and I also removed the bolts in the end and folded it back. That way it wasn't so close to the welding area.
All right, we did it. This is the finished project. I did weigh it before I welded it on, and the whole new rack with the expanded steel, receiver hitch and everything, not including the bike rack, came in at right around 25 pounds. So total Weight added was 25 pounds. I believe this generator is around 50 pounds, 40, 50 pounds. And putting the bike rack on here. This is a 4-bike bike rack that I got at a garage sale for $5. Hey, don't buy it new if you don't have to. So I got that working pretty good. And I really like how it all came out here. It doesn't stick out too far. It's just barely big enough for my generator and a gas can and I don't know, whatever other wet swimsuits or boogie boards or whatever will be hung on there in the future. It's a really good size. It came out really nice. I'm very, very happy with it. I did order a 3/8 cable lock to put up over the generator. This is how nerdy I am. I actually went and weighed a cable lock versus chain, and I weighed, I think it was a piece of 3/8 chain, and to get enough chain to go up over the generator, it weighed, I think, 3.5 pounds more than the same length of a cable lock. So I realized the cable lock is not as secure and can be cut, but like, I don't know that I want to drag 4 pounds of chain around the country just because. So I do have a cable lock on order for that. And here's some close-ups of how it turned out. I've got it reinforced right there with some angle iron. It is all tied into the frame, even back here. One thing to note before I started welding, I went inside, I turned the propane off, I went inside, and I turned the stove on until it was out of gas, and then I unbolted the grill connection from the bottom of the frame and folded it back like a foot, as much length as it had. Safety first. So anyways, that's it. I'm super excited. We're taking it out this weekend. I'm gonna take the generator, even though I don't need it, just because. I got a really cool generator cover off of Amazon. I'll put a link below, but this is impossible to do with one hand. All right, so this is the generator cover. It's really pretty, it makes it inconspicuous. I guess most people would be able to guess what it was, but this is kind of a cool cover. So it's got a pocket for like power adapters, and if you have to pick it up, you can pick it up without taking the cover off, which is kind of cool. So anyways, this is my home-built trailer bumper. I hope you enjoyed the process of making it, maybe got some ideas. I will tell you, if I didn't do this for the joy of doing it, I have way too many hours into it, and I like doing projects like this that are optimal and fun and cheap when it's mostly sweat equity. So anyways, it came out exactly how I wanted. I don't have to worry about, flip up racks failing or the bumper falling off or any of that stuff. So I'm pretty jacked about it. Hopefully you got some good ideas. You get out in the shop, work on something.